I'm Betsy. I'm going to hang out with you all morning long. On the East Coast, it's 10 to noon Eastern time that we have our special limited 2-hour series. We've got daily advice, recipes, headlines, lots of interviews with people from all walks of life. So we can intrigue you to cozy up at home or get out, which is exactly where we're going to start today. Yes, we're going to have a credit card information you need to know whether you're taking out a new card or trying to adjust what you've done through the most recent history of shopping. We are going to get cooking with some terrific recipes, including a lighter mac and cheese. But why not have a little fantasy vacation or plan one for real? And this is a pretty powerful trend in travel, in particular, if you like the independence of living in a home, or even more important, have a large crowd you want to accommodate, not at hotel prices. There is something that you might be able to do by getting your own villa. So we thought, wouldn't it be fun to visit with Ellen Sinoff, who's a European specialist? Doorways Ltd is her company, and she can explain to us what we need to know when we are renting vacation villas and apartments in Europe, because she's done it for an awfully long time. Welcome.
Hi, Betsy. How are you today?
Oh, so envious. I'm assuming that you get to Europe all the time so you can personally test the villas.
I do. I'm happy to say I do. And in fact, Kit Burns, who is the president and owner of Doorways, is actually in France as we speak, scouting out new villas in Provence.
That's the kind of job I need next. I need to scout villas in Provence. Although it's not lavender season, right? So I shouldn't be like 100% envious.
We do travel off-season. We travel in the winter. And in fact, I've grown to love off-season travel the best.
Well, for people who travel often, it means lower fares, less crowds, and you can get whatever restaurant reservation you want.
Absolutely.
All right, can we talk about what you actually do and then different parts of Europe we could explore?
Sure. From
a villa? I did this summer. I stayed in a villa in Italy for a week. It really was one of the best holidays I can ever remember.
Where did you go?
We were in Tuscany, but we were in a tiny, tiny village in Tuscany, and then from there we could travel.
That's the whole idea, is to have a home base that you can come back to at night and relax and feel at home. It's kind of everyone's dream to live in Europe. And when you rent a villa, you get to actually experience that. And
then, of course, you don't want to have to take care of the villa year-round. You can leave if we rent. That's like a nice little option.
Exactly.
Or go to different cities along the way.
You can go for an overnight if you want to go a little further afield. We also have lots of suggestions. We have a section of our website called Day Trip Ideas, where we give you 2 weeks' worth of ideas from each different area that we represent.
So if I were a new client and I thought, and I've never rented a home before, I mean, I have rented a home before, and I know there are lots of questions you need to ask before you go anywhere. I've rented in the U.S. and I've rented in Europe. Where would you start with a new client so that the expectations can be met? It's a little different than staying in a hotel.
Absolutely. Well, the first thing is to determine whether a villa really is right for you, because it isn't for everyone. It gives you a more independent experience than staying in a hotel, as you said. When you're in a hotel, everything is done for you, and you're surrounded by other foreigners. When you rent a villa, you get to experience a little bit of what it is like to live in a place. You find your favorite neighborhood coffee bar, you shop at the local supermarket, and if you're lucky, you get to know your neighbors and meet some real Italian people. And, you know, people tell us all the time when they begin the villa search process, they're focused on photographs of villas, the furnishings, the location, maps of what's around it. But when they come home, what they talk about is not the villa or the furniture. It's the people that they met on their trip and the experiences they had.
Well, I've been on Villa Vacations website. I might focus on the furniture, too, right off the bat, only because some of it is really phenomenal. I mean, architecturally intriguing and it combining kind of current trends and antiques. Like the pictures are really good.
Exactly. There are villas in all different sizes and different price ranges. In fact, I think that's one of the most surprising things about renting a villa. When people think of renting a villa, they think of a grand luxury villa. But the reality is that there are those villas. There are also country farmhouses, and there are cozy cottages and apartments in all sizes and all price ranges.
And sometimes what you're renting is not filled with antiques. Sometimes it looks like a home someone might live in that country that doesn't go back for hundreds of years.
Exactly. Sometimes we have a property I'm thinking of in France in particular that's like living in a real French neighborhood, and it's especially nice for families because their children are likely to meet French children, play at the soccer field together. In fact, renting a villa is especially nice for families because there's plenty of space for the children to run around, make noise, and be themselves. You can come home after a day of touring and have a swim in the pool or run around the yard. And some of our villas even have special amenities for children like screening rooms or craft corners.
I was thinking pool.
Exactly.
That would be an amenity for all of us, in particular in the summer.
Yes.
What do we need to ask? And then we can talk about different countries and where we might have different experience. But what do we need to ask about renting? A villa is a home. You're renting a house.
Absolutely.
Regardless of the age. We say villa because it's Europe. So you're renting a house. In this country, you might ask, for example, are sheets included?
Exactly. Well, sheets are included with all of our villas, but not all villas will include pool towels. So we are very specific at several points during the process to point out everything that is included or not included. We always say our goal is to be sure there are no surprises except pleasant ones. You certainly wouldn't want to arrive and find no sheets on the bed. So we try to prepare people. There's so much information that's out there on the internet now, but sometimes it's too much information, and people feel they need someone to help prepare them to know what to expect when they get there.
Well, I think when you're renting anything anywhere, it's just like going to a hotel. You need to know the amenities of that place. So would we ask after sheets and towels about laundry?
Absolutely. And in fact, the process begins with us asking you a lot of questions.
Oh, well, go pretend I'm your client. Like, what would you ask me? And I'm dying to go anywhere.
Okay. Well, first we would determine if you had a particular area. If you had, we do most of our rentals in Italy. We also have villas in France and Spain, but Italy is our primary focus. And we would ask you, have you ever been to Italy before? If you haven't, you might want to take in the major cities, Rome and Florence and Venice. If you've been there several times, we would want to find out where you have traveled. Mostly, we want to try to find out what you are envisioning. So we might ask you, how do you see spending your evenings? Do you think that you would want to go to a different fabulous restaurant every night? Or would you want to come home, enjoy a glass of wine, watch the sunset, and then prepare dinner in your kitchen?
Me cook in the kitchen? I'm just kidding. We cook, well, for people who cook all the time, there is this fantasy of cooking abroad, and I know sometimes you can work with the local town, and there are restaurants and people who do cooking will come train you, and then there's those of us who are like, okay, busman's holiday. Exactly.
And we have all of those various kinds of experiences to offer. We have villas that come with full service, daily maid service, and a chef to prepare all of your meals. We can also arrange for a chef in almost any of our villas. So if you just want one special evening at home where, everybody can sit around the table all night and enjoy a long meal, the kids can run off and play, we can arrange to make that happen in your villa. And of course, to me, part of the fun of travel is to visit local markets. So even if you don't want to cook, sometimes I know I'm tired after a day of traveling, and sometimes I like to just pick up a chicken at the market and bring it home and heat something up for a really simple but still delicious meal.
Oh, bread, cheese, all those delicious salumi that Italy is known for.
Exactly.
That can be your meal too. So you're going to ask us a lot of questions, and we're going to say things like, well, we have children, or we're traveling as adults, or it's a get together of old friends.
Right. We're going to find out what your group is comprised of, especially with regard to children, what the ages of the children are. We wouldn't want to put someone with a toddler in a villa that has a pool right out the back door. So sometimes there are safety issues, and of course some of the villas are full of precious antiques, and we wouldn't want to put someone with a bunch of children in there. So I like to think of myself as a little bit of a matchmaker, and our goal is to match you with a villa that will be just right for you.
And then do we also speak with you about transportation? Because some villas can be quite remote.
Yes.
But beautiful, and that might be the experience you want, and some are located in and or near cities.
Exactly. Doorways does not do airfare, but we certainly are happy to consult with clients, and we encourage people to chat with us before they book their airfare, because we know where the closest airport is and what the drive is like to get there. I should mention that one thing that I think sets us apart from other villa rental agencies is that we visit all of the villas ourselves. And quite often we stay in them. So we're able
so
to
would
talk.
I.
Exactly. And when we're there and meet people, everyone says, I want your job. For sure. You know, we go to the villas, we pre-screen them before we go, and then when we visit, we sit on the mattresses, we turn on the faucets to be sure there's enough water pressure, and we get to know the owners so that we know which villas have the most welcoming owners who are going to invite you into their home to meet their family or introduce you to the butcher, all kinds of personal experiences like that.
So you know exactly what you're getting into, hopefully, even though it's always a little bit different. The language is going to be different. The cars, if you rent one, are going to be different, although I imagine you can also find car services, car and driver.
Yes, we've been in business for 18 years, and we have a wonderful collection of cars and drivers, tour guides, all kinds of special services that we can offer while you're at your villa.
And fees are also important. I remember a gazillion years ago when I first discovered, just past Hostel Point, not hostile like angry, but hostile when you stay in the youth area, that hotels have taxes attached to them or sometimes service fees. I had no idea, right? Because I never paid the bill in my life beyond the bed in the youth hostel, that could add up to so much money.
Exactly. And that's why we're very specific about what's included. For example, they just started recently in the last year or two introducing a tourist tax for visitors. And it started in the cities. It started in Rome and Venice, and it began to spread to the countryside. And so last year, and in fact still, we tell everyone to expect to pay this because it's constantly changing where they're charging this tax. And as I said, we don't want any unpleasant surprises, so we feel like it's better to tell you you're going to pay a tax and then you get there and find out there is no tax in that municipality. We just can't keep track of every town.
So if there's a tax, there's a cleaning service, there's a security deposit. This is like having a home. So
yes, exactly.
You do ask for some deposits just in case.
Absolutely. We do have one or two owners who do not require a security deposit. They're the old-fashioned, trusting, wonderful kind of welcoming people, and they just think it sets a bad tone. But in almost every villa, you are expected to pay a security deposit. Sometimes that's paid to us, and we hold it, and sometimes it has to be paid when you check into the villa, and then it's returned to you when you check out. It's just to guard against damage.
Well, what's your favorite thing about renting a villa as opposed to staying in a hotel? I'm a fan of both. I think they both offer a wonderful experience.
Well, one of my favorite things, this is just me personally, I can't quite make it out for coffee in the morning. I can't quite get dressed without a cup of coffee. So I like to wake up in the villa and make my own coffee. I'll go out later to have a cappuccino at the coffee bar. But I think it's just the relaxation of being in a home of, if you do eat dinner at home, you don't have to wear shoes or be dressed up for dinner. And I like sleeping in a bed every night, and going out for the day. But when you come home at night, you really do truly feel like you're coming home.
And you said earlier we might not have to rent for a week.
In most places, it's a week. In the cities, it's often 5 days. A few owners will take 4 days, and there are a couple odd properties here and there that will take as little as 3 days. But it's usually a week. Sometimes it's much longer than that. I rented a wonderful house in Rome last year to a woman who went for 6 months with her children and enrolled them in school there, and they just had an unbelievable experience.
Hello.
Exactly.
Like, who wouldn't?
I dream of that. There's a few little cottages that I dream of going and just being able to write for a month.
Now, economically, would it make sense to rent for 2 weeks? Does it change the price? And also, if you could talk a little bit about the prices changing by season.
Oh, yes, definitely. Well, usually a price break will occur if you stay longer than 2 weeks. And what was the second thing you wanted me to?
But the prices change by season. You said you love
absolutely.
traveling off season. Now,
Yes.
off season is all relative, right? It depends on what you want from the experience. If you want the beach, you do have to go in a warmer month.
Exactly. And, it seems everyone, at least most families, want to go the third week in June. That's the most popular week of the year. But for people who don't have school-age children, I think off-season travel is the best. The villa rates go down usually in September and then again at the end of October. And in the winter, there are fabulous bargains. And we've had families who, of course, most families travel in the summer, but we often rent to families who decide to spend a holiday together, like Thanksgiving or Christmas, in a villa. And a lot of that is because, families are scattered all over the country, and no one has a house big enough for everyone. So they rent a villa in Italy and spend the holidays there.
Ooh, that's a fun idea. All right, so wait, where have you been that you really love? And you could give us an idea whether it's for a girlfriend getaway or couples or families or larger scale gatherings.
Oh, Betsy, that's a little like asking someone with a bunch of children who's your favorite.
I know it's very hard to judge like great places in Italy and France, but give it a whirl. Just some examples.
One of our favorites is it's an estate outside of Lucca. It's called the Bonvisi Estate, and the estate has a very large villa that can sleep about 26 people. It also has a smaller villa that sleeps, I think, 10 people, and 2 apartments that sleep 6 and 4. So it kind of works for everyone. It's a wonderful location and a really wonderful owner who really goes out of her way for guests. This is one of those villas that has a lot of amenities for children. In the main villa, there's a screening room, there's a tennis court, a swimming pool. You can rent the villa with full staff if you don't want to do any cooking, or she also has a fabulous pizza chef who comes from Naples, and he can either do a presentation of the history of pizza or a pizza cooking class, which is really a lot of fun.
All right, I'm in. Now, that's beautiful. That's Tuscany.
Okay, that's Tuscany. Also, very up and coming is Puglia. Tuscany is our most popular destination. I'd say after that comes Lake Como and then the Amalfi Coast. And Puglia is just beginning to creep into people's awareness, especially after Justin Timberlake was married there. And this is especially becoming popular with clients who've been to Italy several times and they want to experience someplace new. It's still kind of undiscovered. In fact, one of our villa owners there said, "You should tell your clients you will go to Puglia. The only question is, do you want to go now or after it's discovered?"
That's someone who really knows their marketing.
Exactly. We're passionate about all of the places we represent. Each region is so different, and every place has something special to offer. It's kind of like when you come back from visiting a region, you always swear it's your favorite. So usually my favorite region is the one I've traveled to last. In this particular case, the last place I traveled was to the Italian lakes.
All good. They're all good locations. Have you had the chance also to experience villas in France and in Spain and compare them to what you get when you're in Italy?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I went to France with a former colleague, and I kept saying to her, "Why is this different than Tuscany?" We were driving through Provence, and in some ways, everything looked the same. Every there were hill towns. Every town had a church. And I said to her, "What's different?" And she said, "It's the French style." So sometimes it's just something subtle like that. Other times I went to the south of Spain, the Andalusia, the Costa del Sol. And what impressed me the most there was the mix of cultures. There's a great Moorish influence there, or even a Greek influence in Sicily. And so each region is very different, and I've yet to go someplace that I didn't love.
Well, because you love to travel. If you were trying to determine, and I know you would never push someone into a villa if they're more of a hotel person, how do you know the hotel person? Like, what would they be missing?
Well, a classic question is if someone says to us, can I get fresh towels every day? Because it's not typical in an Italian home to change your towels every day. Utilities are fabulously expensive, and almost no one has a dryer. So they can't turn them around that fast. Often they'll change them midweek or something like that. But if someone starts to ask about a lot of amenities like that, I mean, we can set clients up with tour guides who will pick them up at their villa and take them to visit Florence or something like that. But when they need a lot of amenities,
attention, daily maps, an itinerary.
Exactly. And even still, I can think of villas where that would be possible, but maybe it wouldn't be in their budget.
Okay, so those are the questions we need to ask ourselves, too. What exactly do we want out of the experience? And from, one green-ish living person to another, you probably don't need to change your towels every day.
Right, exactly. Exactly. You can hang them up. And in fact, in Europe, they have those wonderful heated towel racks. So when you go to reuse it, it's not only dry, but it's warm.
Exactly. I like to take a little bit of that home. Oh, my gosh, I've had such a great time talking to you. And I do feel like I could book something every year for a decade and not get to all the wonderful villas that are available. Ellen Sinoff, you've given us great information. We just need the website in case people are interested in more.
Our website is Villa Vacations with an S on the end. .com, and you can also text the word villa to the number 42828 on your smartphone, and that will bring you to a place where you can sign up for our newsletter. Even if you're not planning to rent a villa and you just want to dream, you can join our mailing list to stay informed. We send out regular email newsletters and discounts, and we have a special mailing list for family travel and one just for travel agents.
Okay, you just said my favorite word, discount. You're the perfect lead into a conversation we're going to have about personal finance coming next, because we absolutely want to afford the European vacation.
Absolutely.
We have to tackle the credit card first. Ellen, have a lovely day, and I thank you so much for the information.
Thank you so much, Betsy. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Ellen is a European specialist for Doorways, and yes, we've been talking about Villa Vacations, which is exactly where you go online if you want more information, or you can follow them at Twitter at Doorways Villas. But for more information, absolutely, we're here for you. And yes, you do need to address your credit card so that we can afford all those fabulous things you'd like to do over in Europe. That's a conversation we're going to have next on Living at Home. It's Personal Finance on Martha Stewart Living Radio, SiriusXM 110.